If you're over 65, what you do in the first few minutes after waking up may matter more than anything else you do all day. It sounds like an exaggeration. I know, but stay with me for just a moment. Imagine two people, both 70 years old. One slowly fades into a life of fatigue, brain fog, aching joints, and weekly doctor visits. The other seems to be aging in reverse, sharp, energetic, vibrant, waking up each morning with a sense of clarity and calm. What's the difference? Surprisingly, it often begins with what happens in the first 5 minutes of their day. There's a growing body of insight among longevity researchers pointing to a pattern. Older adults who follow a very specific morning approach not only feel better in the short term, they may actually extend their lives by as much as 20 years. 20, not just more time, but more good time. The kind of years that let you walk unassisted, remember names and conversations with ease, travel freely, and stay close to the people and passions that give life meaning. And here's the thing, most seniors don't even know this opportunity exists. Let me share a story that might remind you of someone in your life, or perhaps even yourself. A few years ago, there was a man named Leonard, a 67-year-old widower living quietly in a small town outside of Asheville. He had been active most of his life, retired from teaching, loved gardening, always kept his hands busy, but after his wife passed, and as the years caught up, his mornings grew sluggish. He'd wake up feeling heavy, his knees tight, his thoughts cloudy. He thought this was just aging. It's normal, people told him. What do you expect at this age? But inside, Leonard couldn't shake the sense that maybe there was something else, some way to feel like himself again. Then, through a friend at his local church group, he was introduced to a simple idea that how you begin your morning can reshape everything about your day and even your future. Skeptical but curious, Leonard began making a few quiet shifts in how he greeted each day. At first, it was just sipping a different kind of drink, then a little movement, then a small change in how and when he ate. Within weeks, he noticed something shifting, not overnight magic, but clarity, energy, lightness. His doctor noticed it too. So did his adult children, who started calling more, amazed at how upbeat their father had become. I know this might sound too easy, but sometimes the simplest habits, done consistently, create the most powerful ripple effects. What I want to share with you today are 5 small but powerful morning steps that are changing lives. They don't require expensive equipment or long workouts, just intention, a little time, and a willingness to begin. The first step is surprisingly simple but deeply misunderstood. The very first thing you put in your body when you open your eyes. For many, it's coffee. Maybe it's black, maybe with a little cream. For others, it's skipping a drink altogether and going straight to breakfast, or even medication. But here's what most people don't realize. After 7 or 8 hours of sleep, your body is in a mild state of dehydration. That dry mouth isn't just a small inconvenience. It's a quiet signal from your heart, your brain, your joints, all asking for replenishment. There's a woman named Marcia, 71, from New Mexico, who used to wake up dizzy almost every morning. Her heart would race after getting out of bed, and she thought it was her age catching up. But her daughter, a nurse, asked a simple question. "Mom, what's the first thing you drink in the morning?" Marcia shrugged. "Coffee, I guess, sometimes nothing." Sure, Mom, that was the turning point. Her daughter encouraged her to try something different. Water, but not just any water, room temperature, with a bit of lemon. It seemed too small to matter, but within 2 weeks, the dizziness stopped. Her energy came back, and she felt more alert, more balanced, as if her body had been quietly waiting for this all along. It's a shift that thousands of older adults are now trying, and for good reason. Rehydrating first thing helps your blood flow more easily, easing the burden on your heart. It can also help regulate digestion, reduce joint stiffness, and clear mental fog. Think of it like waking up your body the gentle way, giving it what it needs before you ask it to carry you through the day. So tomorrow morning, before your feet touch the floor, try reaching for a glass of water, not your phone. Let your body receive before it performs. Now, once the body is rehydrated, there's something else that's quietly happening beneath the surface. And if you're over 65, it's something you need to know. When we sleep, especially as we age, circulation slows, gravity causes blood to pool in the lower limbs. That's why many seniors feel unsteady or slow when they first rise. But there's a way to reset this process in just a minute or two. And it doesn't involve going to the gym. Let me tell you about Jerome, 74, a former painter from Chicago. He once woke up with a strange numbness in his fingers and a bit of slurred speech. It faded within minutes, but it shook him deeply. He went to his doctor and learned he'd narrowly avoided a stroke. The culprit? Poor morning circulation. His physician recommended a short movement routine, nothing strenuous. Just a few specific motions the moment he got out of bed. Jerome made it a ritual. Within a month, not only did the strange sensations stop, but he felt steadier, sharper. He called it his wake-up walk without walking. These kinds of movements help pump blood back toward the brain and heart, right when they need it most. And when your blood is moving, so is your energy. Your focus sharpens, your mood improves, and your risk of sudden complications drops significantly. This isn't about doing more, it's about doing smarter. If you've made it this far in the video, I hope you're starting to realize something. The power to age well isn't hidden in prescriptions or far-off secrets. It's tucked into the quiet, often overlooked moments of your morning. It's in the water you drink, the breath you take, the movement you allow. These habits, though small, act like keys, unlocking parts of your body that are quietly begging for support. And we're just getting started. Because what comes next, what you eat, how you move your joints, and how you activate your mind may be the very thing that decides not just how long you live, but how well you live. After Leonard began his simple morning changes, water, movement, breath, he noticed something else. His muscles, which had once felt like soft clay losing shape, began to feel alive again, not bulked or transformed like a bodybuilder, but responsive, capable. He could rise from his chair more easily. He could lift groceries without bracing himself, and it all traced back to something his neighbor, a former physical therapist, had whispered over coffee one morning. If you don't feed your muscles first thing in the morning, they'll quietly fade. For years, Leonard had skipped breakfast or only eaten a slice of toast or a banana hours after waking. But aging bodies, especially those over 65, don't function like younger ones. They enter the day in a more fragile state. While we sleep, the body not only repairs itself, but also, for seniors, loses muscle mass more rapidly than most realize. It's a silent erosion, and without proper fuel soon after waking, the body simply doesn't recover. So Leonard changed one small thing every morning. Shortly after his hydration, he began adding protein to his routine. Sometimes it was a smoothie with a scoop of protein powder and frozen berries. Sometimes it was eggs with a little Greek yogurt. It wasn't about quantity, it was about timing. He gave his muscles what they needed right when they were most ready to receive it. Within 2 months, his balance improved. The small but embarrassing stumbles stopped. Even his doctor remarked that his muscle tone looked better than it had in years. It wasn't magic, it was timing. A quiet, overlooked key that many seniors never hear about. And it makes you think, how many older adults are losing their independence not because of accidents or illness, but because no one ever told them they needed protein early in the day? It's a simple act of protection, an act of care, one that lets you keep the strength to lift yourself, carry what matters, and move through your world with confidence. Once Leonard felt more in control of his strength, he noticed something else: his joints, the creaks in his shoulders, the slow turn of his neck, the stiffness in his hips as he stood up from the couch. For a long time, he thought this was just the price of aging, something you accept. But then he remembered something his late wife used to say when they were younger and gardening together. You don't let a machine sit cold for too long, or it'll freeze up. So he started a small practice of mobility each morning. Nothing flashy. Just a few minutes of gentle movement to wake up his joints. He'd sit on the edge of his bed, roll his ankles slowly. He'd twist his torso gently, stretch his arms up, side to side. He began to treat his body less like an old tool wearing out and more like a trusted instrument that deserved attention. Within a month, the tightness in his back eased, the slow, awkward bend to tie his shoes, gone. The time he used to spend waiting for his body to warm up was now spent moving freely from the moment his feet touched the ground. It's easy to overlook the little things. We focus on pills, diets, exercise plans. But what if a minute or two of gentle care each morning could preserve your independence? What if 90 seconds of movement could mean one less fall, one less visit to the doctor, one more moment of walking hand in hand with someone you love? And it wasn't just Leonard's body that changed. His mind followed. For months, he had been experiencing what he called mental fog. He'd lose his train of thought, forget what day it was, misplace small items like his keys or glasses. It scared him. His father had battled dementia, and Leonard feared he might be next. But his neighbor, yes, the same one who had told him about the hydration, shared one final ritual. A morning exercise not for the body, but for the brain. It wasn't Sudoku or a crossword. It was something simpler, something strange at first, but profoundly effective. Every morning, Leonard would close his eyes and try to recall the events of the previous day, but in reverse, starting with dinner, then lunch, then breakfast. Who he spoke with, what they said, where he went, what he wore, what he felt. This backward storytelling forced his brain to reach deeper, to engage different patterns of memory. At first, it was hard. He'd get frustrated, but within a few weeks, he was recalling more, sharper, clearer. Even his daughter noticed during their weekly calls, "Dad, you sound more present." What surprised Leonard most wasn't that he felt smarter. It was that he felt more alive, more connected to his own experiences, as if each morning, instead of letting the fog settle in, he was choosing to rise through it and remember who he was. So now, each day, Leonard rises with purpose, a glass of lemon water at his bedside, a few moments of slow movement, a nourishing bite of protein, a stretch here, a twist there, and finally, a quiet minute to travel backward in time, collecting the memories of his life, one day at a time. These are not dramatic acts. They're not glamorous, but they are powerful. And for Leonard, they've become sacred because they've given him something he once feared was slipping away. Not just more years, but better ones. And maybe that's what it's really about. Not extending life to chase more time, but to fill the time you have with clarity, strength, movement, and memory. What would your mornings feel like if you gave yourself this kind of care? If you're still watching, it means something in your heart knows this matters, that maybe, just maybe, you've been looking for a way to reclaim your mornings, and in doing so, reclaim your future. It's a beautiful thing when a person reclaims their mornings, not as a race to catch up with the world, but as a sacred time to reconnect with their body, their breath, their strength, their story. That's what Leonard learned. That's what Eloise learned. And that's what countless others are beginning to discover as they quietly transform 5 overlooked minutes into something life-changing. There's one moment Leonard often talks about when he reflects on how much things have shifted. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't happen in a doctor's office or during a big event. It was on a Tuesday morning, sometime around 6:30 or 9 a.m. when he sat on the edge of his bed, holding that warm glass of lemon water, feeling the quiet of the house around him. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel rushed. He didn't feel afraid. He didn't feel old. He felt capable, grounded, and he realized something with a kind of quiet certainty. The way he began his day was changing the way he lived his life. That realization deepened when he went in for his annual checkup later that year. His doctor raised her eyebrows as she read his test results. Blood pressure, lower. Heart rate, steadier. Inflammation markers, reduced. His gait, stronger. "What have you been doing?" she asked. Leonard smiled. "I started listening to my body," he said. "First thing every morning." The doctor shook her head in amazement. "Whatever it is, don't stop." And he hasn't, because he knows now that health isn't just about treatment. It's about rhythm, routine, gentle attention, and most of all, consistency. You don't need a perfect diet. You don't need a full gym. You don't need to become someone new. You just need to care consistently, lovingly, patiently for the person you already are. These stories aren't shared to impress you. They're shared to remind you that you are not powerless in the face of aging. You are not sentenced to decline. You have choices, especially in the small things, and those small things add up. A glass of water before your feet hit the floor, a deep breath and a slow stretch, a protein-rich breakfast eaten while sunlight spills through the kitchen window, a quiet moment of mental reflection. These are not burdens, they are gifts, and they are waiting for you every morning. Let's pause here for a moment. If you're still watching, still listening, still holding space for this message, that means it resonates somewhere deep in you. Maybe you've been feeling tired lately, mentally, emotionally, physically. Maybe you've been worrying about your memory or your balance or how much longer you'll be able to do the things you love. Or maybe you've just been feeling stuck, unsure where to begin. Let me offer you something simple and real. Begin tomorrow morning. That's it. Begin when the day is new, before the noise of the world creeps in, before the routines you've outgrown take over again. Begin with a single act of care. You don't have to do all 5 things at once. Start with water, or one stretch, or a short recall of your previous day. Give yourself just 5 minutes to honor your body and your future. And then, do it again the next day, and the next. You'll be amazed at how quickly the body responds to kindness. Muscles begin to wake up, joints begin to soften, breath becomes smoother, and thoughts become clearer. Like fog lifting slowly off a field in the morning light, everything starts to return. Clarity, confidence, movement, peace. It doesn't mean every day will be easy, but it does mean you'll meet each day with more of yourself present and ready. Leonard used to joke that growing old felt like losing little pieces of himself year after year. But now, he says, each morning feels like gathering those pieces back. He's not trying to be young again. He's trying to be well. And in many ways, he's better now than he was a decade ago. Not because of luck or genetics or expensive medicine, but because he finally decided to listen to his life. And now I want to ask you, what would you do with 20 extra years of vitality? Not just existence, but real, active living? Would you travel more? Would you dance again? Would you write that book you never finished? Would you spend longer evenings with your grandchildren? Not just sitting in a chair, but laughing with them on the floor? You may not think 5 minutes could make a difference. But what if that small window each morning was the key to unlocking all of that? What if it's not about changing everything, but simply changing how you begin? You don't have to have all the answers today. You just have to be willing to try, willing to choose yourself, even in small ways. Because 5 minutes of care may just give you 20 extra years of everything that matters. The idea of 20 extra years might sound far off or even unrealistic, but it's not a fantasy. It's a quiet possibility, and it lives in the margins of your days, in how you breathe, how you move, how you nourish your body and your mind. For Leonard, it didn't begin with a dramatic resolution or a life-threatening diagnosis. It began with noticing how tired he felt, noticing how stiff his hands were, noticing how far away his own thoughts seemed. And then, gently, it began with a decision to stop ignoring what his body was trying to tell him each morning. That decision, repeated daily in small actions, became a form of healing. And over time, healing turned into thriving. And isn't that what we all want as we age? Not to fight against time, but to live in step with it, wise, present, and still fully alive. In one of our last conversations, Leonard said something that stayed with me. He said, "It wasn't about trying to live forever. It was about making the years I still had feel like they were mine again." There was no bitterness in his voice, just peace, as if he had found something more valuable than youth, ownership of his own life. And that's the invitation I want to leave you with. Not pressure, not shame, not guilt about what you haven't done. Just a quiet invitation to begin again tomorrow morning with 5 minutes of care, of presence, of love for the body and mind that have carried you this far. So let's revisit what these 5 minutes could look like. Not as a checklist, but as a gentle rhythm to move within. First, offer your body hydration. Before anything else touches your lips, before the pills, the coffee, the distractions, give your body what it's been thirsting for all night. A glass of room temperature water, maybe with a touch of lemon, not just to quench, but to awaken, then move gently, gracefully, a breath with your arms overhead, a shoulder roll, a stretch toward the sky. Feel your blood begin to circulate. Feel your joints slowly greet the morning. This is your way of saying, "I'm here, I'm ready." Next, feed your strength. Whether it's a small protein shake, some yogurt, a few eggs, whatever suits your taste and your needs, just make sure your body receives the fuel it needs while the sun is still low in the sky. You are not skipping a meal, you are protecting your muscles, your balance, your independence. After that, move your body a bit more, but with purpose, not to exercise, not to burn calories, but to lubricate your joints, to remind them they're loved. Side bends, ankle rolls, hip circles, movements that say, "We're still in this together." And finally, sit for 1 minute. Close your eyes and reflect on your yesterday, not in shame or regret, but in gratitude and curiosity. Rewind the scenes of your life. What did you say? What did you eat? Who did you see? Give your brain a reason to stay sharp. Give your memories the attention they deserve. That's it. That's the whole routine. It may sound simple. It is. But its simplicity is where its power lies. You don't need apps or trackers or fancy schedules. You just need to show up for yourself 5 minutes earlier than usual. That's all. And in return, you just might receive more time, not just in the form of extra years, but in how those years feel. Stronger legs, sharper thoughts, calmer mornings, fewer pills, more laughter, more walking, more dancing, more noticing the flowers on your windowsill. I can't promise you 20 more years. No one can. But I can promise you this. When you begin your day with intention, everything that follows carries more meaning, and that's worth everything. So tomorrow morning, when the alarm goes off, or maybe before it even does, pause, sit still for a moment, breathe in, then give yourself the care you so easily offer others, because your life is not over. It is not even close to over. In fact, it may just be beginning again. If this message meant something to you, share it with someone over 65 who might need a little hope, a little guidance, or just a reminder that it's never too late to begin again, because the gift of 5 good minutes could ripple into 20 extraordinary years, not just for you, but for everyone who loves you. And isn't that a morning worth waking up for?